Ohio State's defense revolves around Caleb Downs, whose versatility makes him a game-changing force.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. During today's show, we will discuss why we are getting closer to a Big Ten SEC challenge, as well as why Lorenzo Styles Jr. is ready to start for the Buckeyes. But first, when you talk about Ohio State's defense, everything starts with Caleb Downs. He's not just an All-American safety. He's the centerpiece of the entire unit. What makes him so special is his versatility. He can line up at safety, roam the box, or even impact the game closer to the line of scrimmage, giving Matt Patricia so many options schematically. Downs' instincts, athleticism, and ability to read offenses allow the Buckeyes to disguise coverages, create turnovers, and control the pace of a game. Simply put, when Caleb Downs is on the field, the defense has a cornerstone it can build around. It's why opponents have to account for him on every play, and why his presence makes the Buckeyes defense not just good, but potentially dominant in 2025, and that's the goal. The goal is to not just be good, but to be dominant this year. And Matt Patricia, when he came to Ohio State, he looked at the film from a year ago, looked at the roster, looked at all those guys that were going to be on the defense once again and saying, how can I make this unit what it needs to be? And who can I utilize that's a returning player from last year's national championship winning team to help my job be easier? Now, his job isn't easy. I am not going to sit up here behind this microphone and lie to you and say Patricia has an easy job. Being a defensive coordinator at Ohio State isn't easy, but it's easier when you have Caleb Downs on your side. And when you think about Downs a year ago, there was the first couple of games where Downs played in the Scarlet and Gray. And then I believe it was in game 3, Jim Knowles said they activated Caleb Downs. And then post-Oregon loss, you saw Downs roam a little bit more, play up towards the line of scrimmage a little bit more. Hancock played deep safety a little bit, which allowed Downs to be more of a Swiss Army knife for the Buckeyes defense. And I think you're going to get more of the post-Oregon loss version of Downs from Jump Street. There is absolutely no reason why you should hold Downs back or hold anybody back against Texas, because similar to what Ryan Day said about Julian Sand, the mission for Sand is in that game, it's the same mission for the Buckeyes defense. Just win, baby. That's it. And do what you got to do to win. If that means shortening the rotation and leaving a starting defensive ends out there the entire time, do it. If it means only having a 3-man rotation in the middle, do it at D tackle. If it means with the linebackers only playing 3 because Laurinaitis believes they have 3 starting linebackers, do it. You ain't got to play everybody in a mama. You ain't trying to make everybody happy. You're trying to win the game. And while you're trying to win the game, you can tap into Caleb Downs' expertise, his instincts, his versatility to allow the Buckeyes defense to disrupt Arch all afternoon long, because that can happen. But a year ago, and I went back and looked at some things and saw a recent chart put together by 11 Warriors, and they did a great job of breaking down some of the film and discussing the various positions that Caleb Downs lines up pre-snap. And in Alabama and Ohio State, there are some similarities, but I think what happened last year was a little bit different than what happened during Downs' true freshman season. Last year for the Buckeyes, Downs lined up at deep safety 393 times. He lined up in the box either at linebacker depth or at D-line depth 350 times. He lined up over the slot receiver 160 times, and he lined up at corner 11 times. And I think that 350 when he's lining up in the box is something that you might primarily think of a year ago after the Oregon loss, when you saw him kind of be a wannabe Mike linebacker, kind of a triangle or a diamond, more of a triangle type of formation where the 2 linebackers are at the same depth, and then in the middle, about 3 or 4 yards behind them, is Caleb Downs. And that was almost I don't want to say a nightmare, But you know that the block go from a year ago in Cody Simon was a menace on the field. He was a man possessed. But then you have a man behind him, not too far behind, a few yards away, in Caleb Downs right there. You're trying to ID both of those guys. When you ID both of them and they're right there in the middle of the field, how do you overcome that? And a lot of teams didn't have an answer. They didn't have one at all because both of those guys are elite players and they happen to be at Ohio State and win the national championship. And while Downs is elite, one area that I remember him lining up in the box, actually at D-line depth, was against Texas. And think back to that series. When Texas is driving in the fourth quarter, they get into a goal-to-go situation. They have 4 downs to score to tie the game. First down, nothing. They get stuffed. And then on second down, Downs is lined up in between the defensive end and the D tackle on the Buckeyes' right side of the defense at D-line depth. He's not back 5 or 8 yards, though. He realizes he sees something pre-snap, and this is where he needs to be. I believe the DN was Tuimoloau out, and I want to say the D tackle right there was Tyleik Williams. Well, at the snap of the ball, this is where the instincts come in, and just really good coaching. At the snap of the ball, the Longhorns left tackle pulls going outside. And as every linebacker is taught, when somebody pulls, something is coming right there. Shoot the gap and go straight forward where that man was. Well, Downs went forward, but he didn't follow the left tackle. He went straight for the ball carrier because Texas called a toss sweep to the left. Toss sweep left, Ewers tosses a ball. Downs is right there. And instead of Downs going horizontal, he went vertical. He went straight and caused the Longhorns ball carrier to go sideline towards east and west to go away from the goal line, basically. Next thing you know, Downs is the first man to hit the ball carrier. Didn't make the tackle. It was a missed tackle for Downs, but I believe Lathan Ransom was right there to clean everything up. And that was just one example about Downs being a safety, but utilizing his instincts and great coaching when he was younger to stop something Texas was doing. You can look in the Oregon game. You can look in the Tennessee game. You can look at a lot of games that Downs played where he's lining up all over the place and being a disruptor. His ability to be a Swiss Army knife, I think, is going to be very, very pivotal for Ohio State to beat Texas week 1. Actually, I know it will be because Matt Patricia, he is a mastermind. I understand there are people that might still be skeptical about Matt Patricia leading Ohio State's defense, and I get it. You are maybe stuck in what happened during his 3 years being the head man for the Detroit Lions. I understand it. You can't take that away. It was his first time being a head coach, and it didn't go well. Newsflash. Most coaches don't do really good things as far as winning consistently in Detroit. So if you want to knock Matt Patricia, you better knock all those other coaches that were there before him where they didn't win a lot either. If you lose, people get disgruntled, and a lot of people will say bad things about you. And it's not because they don't like you. Well, things come up when you lose. Well, Ohio State's not trying to lose that much this year, not trying to lose at all. And if they continue to utilize Downs in the same ways they did a year ago, and then maybe do things in a little bit better way and expand how elite he is on the field, the Buckeyes aren't only going to beat Texas week 1 and knock off the number 1 team in the country, but they're going to do a lot of good things, beat Penn State, beat Michigan, go on the road to Seattle and beat the Huskies in Washington, which is a very hard place to play because you're tapping into everything Downs does well. Speaking of things that Downs does well, he is a coach on the field, and I have a good feeling Downs is going to help the transition for Lorenzo Styles Jr. to go from being a backup at Ohio State to being a starter this year. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Once again, make sure you visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thank y'all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Man, the more I think about Caleb Downs and the more I talk about Texas and the things Ohio State must do to beat the Longhorns, I'm getting very, very excited for college football. I know week 0 is tomorrow, but week 1's a whole lot different. You get ball from Thursday to Monday. I mean, you got Miami and Notre Dame on Sunday. You got the Buckeyes kicking things off on that Saturday. You got a primetime game on Labor Day. College football is here. But while college football is here, there are going to be a lot of new faces in new places all around the country, including Ohio State. And the Buckeyes defense that lost 8 guys from a national championship winning team where the Buckeyes also had one of the best defenses in the country, you're going to see a lot of new faces in new places this year. And one of them is Lorenzo Styles Jr., the former Notre Dame wide receiver who transferred to Ohio State, is now entering a year where it's his final year of eligibility, where he's going to be starting alongside his brother, Sonny Styles, who is a Blocko. They're both also Ohio State legacies. Lorenzo Styles Jr. just graduated this past April alongside his dad. So there's a lot of family ties to this Ohio State team in 2025. Well, Lorenzo Styles Jr. is embarking on a new role this year, and people may be wondering, is he ready for it? I feel like that's a valid question to ask. If you're about to start a new journey and something that you have been preparing for, but you hadn't taken that first step yet, people are going to ask you, or people are going to speculate if you're ready for it. I feel like that's a wise thing to do. But I don't believe Ryan Day, nor Matt Patricia, nor Matt Guerreri, nor Tim Walton would go out and make this move, or with Lorenzo Styles Jr. and say, oh, he's close, but he's not really ready, but he's got to start. No, he's ready for the role. Because if he's not ready, Buckeyes got somebody else that can fill that role that is ready for the job right now. But I think Lorenzo Styles Jr. is ready for this, and alongside Caleb Downs and Downs' expertise as a coach on the field and being an extension of Matt Patricia while Downs is inside the lines, I do believe that this is going to be a phenomenal move for the Buckeyes defense, putting Lorenzo Styles Jr. at the nickel corner spot, which is tough. Y'all, it's very, very tough. You're not just having to cover a very shifty and quick slot receiver. You have to put your nose down there and get dirty and physical and stop the run. But you also can't get stuck in the mud, and you must rely on your instincts and rely on the film study and rely on what the coach is telling you. Because if you get stuck in the mud and if you get confused, if you're not keying the right things, and if you're not altering your technique based on field position or based off down and distance, things might be a little bit crazy for you. But I do believe Downs' expertise, especially playing a little bit of slot corner throughout his 2 years playing college football, that's going to help Lorenzo Styles Jr. this year, because he can ask not only a coach about what he can do to get better, he can ask one of his teammates that's been there, that's done that, how he handled that spot. It's not easy. It is not easy at all to be a slot corner. It's difficult, which is why when Knowles came in, Tanner McAllister, the former Oklahoma State DB, came to Ohio State. He's like, hey, I want to follow that guy. That guy helped me become a very good coach, a very good player. I want to follow him. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all, because I would want to follow a coach if I could, where I was where he helped me be very successful and he helped me progress in my career. I would want to follow him too. Tanner McAllister was not the household name around the country, no. But he was a solid nickel corner. Not afraid to get his nose dirty, get a little physical. And that's what Lorenzo Styles Jr. needs to do. And the everydayers know that for a very long time, I look at a player's physique and I'm trying to figure out, are you really physically fit for battle? Because some guys might be 6'2", 225, and they don't physically look like it. They are a little bit soft, and they have not hit the weights in the right way. They haven't cut the body fat in the necessary time for you to be on the field. And some guys just don't have it. And that's fine. If you don't have it, you won't play, and you'll find somebody else that can play. Well, Lorenzo Styles Jr. has made the necessary transformation physically to be ready for this moment. And I know that with my own eyeballs, saw him sometimes during practice, and I'm thinking, oh, he's got it. He is ready. Standing at My computer is a little bit slow today. 6'1", 195 pounds. You're not throwing a guy out there that's a toothpick or a little bit too heavy. He is the perfect height and has the right frame for this spot. Well, here's the interesting thing about Lorenzo Styles Jr. I don't believe he's going to be playing every single down every single game. Ohio State is in a really good spot right now where there are two safeties trying to start in one spot, where you could find that Downs is at free, McLean or Hartford will start at strong safety, and then Lorenzo Styles Jr. is there at the nickel corner spot. But you also have Bryce West, Aaron Scott Jr. You have Jermaine Matthews Jr. or IGB who could go inside if they need to. I think Lorenzo Styles is better for that spot, but if they need to shift some things around, they can make that happen. Throwing Devin Sanchez, there are a lot of guys at Ohio State that can be very versatile to where you may see 1 week Lorenzo Styles Jr. is starting at the nickel corner spot, and then the next week is somebody else. And then it's back to Styles. And then it goes to somebody else. Why? Because the personnel and the team you're playing dictate what is going to go on. Because Ohio State has the ability to shift things on the fly. If something's not working and we got a backup plan, how about we try the backup plan to see if it's going to work? Doesn't that seem like a good idea to you? I mean, it sounds like a good idea to me because you can't try something that doesn't work and not already have an idea in your head about how to overcome what isn't working. It's a part of the game. The Buckeyes' versatility, I didn't realize versatility was going to be a part of the day, but it is because Downs, versatile, crazy instincts. That's Swiss Army knife. Lorenzo Styles Jr. has paid his dues. It has taken him some time to transition from wide receiver to DB because it's going to. I mean, think about in your head how long it took G. Scott Jr. to be at the standard you thought he needed to be at to be a Buckeye tight end. It took a long time. Now, the difference between G. Scott and Lorenzo is G. Scott had to learn a totally new position where wide receiver and DB are different positions, even different sides of the ball. There are still some skill sets and some things that you do as a receiver that will help you at DB. G. Scott had to learn how to block, how to get into a three-point stance, and to come out of the three-point stance where there's a man your size or heavier and quicker than you and try to block him. Had to figure out how to run routes while getting out of a three-point stance, while being heavier, while adding weight. That's a very difficult transition to make. Lorenzo didn't make that big of a transition, but he did make a big one. And I do believe the time period that he's taken to get to this point in his career and him playing in all 16 games a year ago, those have helped prepare him for this moment. Lorenzo, it's your time, man. I got belief in you. I think Ryan Day and the other coaches believe in him as well. And it's still going to be fun to see the Styles boys on the field together. That's one thing I never got to do when I was in high school was play with my brother. There was some circumstances my senior year that really weren't the best for some of us on the team. And my brother didn't play with me at all. And so it's fun to see those guys out there. It's not every day to see two brothers on the same field, let alone the same team. Egwin Olsen's brother, I believe, played for Rutgers last year. I'm not sure if he is still on the Scarlet Knights, but that connection in and of itself is fun to watch. It's fun to see because you already know your brother. You got a connection. You guys can look at each other and know what each other is thinking. It's gonna be fun to see those Styles brothers celebrate together and have a lot of fun together as they're busting heads all season long. Speaking of busting heads, the Big Ten might bust some heads if there's a Big Ten SEC challenge in the future. And it feels like, based off of a change the SEC made, we might be getting closer to that annual challenge being a reality. This episode is brought to you by Rouette Ready. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rouette Ready. Rouette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. Thank you all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. The SEC made a massive announcement just a day ago when it was announced that the league will be adding one conference game in 2026. They are currently playing 8 conference games this year. They are moving to a 9th conference game in the 2026 college football season. And this is something that was a big conversation in Big Ten Media Days, where even Kurt Signetti made some comments about the scheduling and how the Big Ten plays 9 conference games and the SEC plays 8. And I don't really think he was the right man to make that message because he just literally dodged some power conference teams for some cupcakes. And you're the Hoosiers head coach. You're not the Buckeyes head coach. So even the Hoosiers are a power. You get to the playoff one year and you think, oh, I have this big old head. No, humble yourself. There are levels to this. Well, while there are levels to this, I'm glad the SEC added a 9th conference game. When they have 16 teams in the conference, doesn't it make sense for you to play 9 conference? I mean, it made sense before they added Texas and Oklahoma to play 9 conference games, because when you're playing 4 non-conference games, and one of them is against the FCS opponent, you're basically just saying that's a bye week. Now, not literally a bye week or an off week, because you're still playing a game, but that's a guaranteed win. You're penciling in that win, and then you're having that game be played before the biggest rivalry game of the year for most schools, not all. It's kind of crazy. But one thing Greg Sankey did that I absolutely love, he said, I'm trying to get this up correctly, SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference from the Atlantic Coast, Big Ten, or Big 12 conferences, or Notre Dame each season. And that's where my wheels started turning. And one of you sent a question in basically asking to react to what my thoughts were about the SEC making this move and how it would impact the Big Ten and specifically Ohio State. I think this adds to Ohio State's already home-and-home series with Texas and then Alabama and then Georgia, to where you could see and you should see Ohio State play home-and-home with Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Florida, Georgia, those types of schools. Why? South Carolina. Why? Because the Big Ten and SEC have all the power in the sport right now when it comes to deciding the playoff format, when it comes to really dictating how the national championship is decided, what teams can get in there, what teams can't get in there, what teams automatically get in. The Big Ten and Southeastern Conference hold that power. And when they already had, I won't say a full agreement, but an understood agreement that they might play each other year after year after year, this adds to why that might happen. Now, this also makes you wonder if the SEC is going to add 2 more teams to equal the Big Ten's 18, which I think is more realistic than people might think. There are 2 schools right now that think the SEC would love to add. They would boost the revenue for college football, and it would help them in other areas that aren't just on the football field to make money. Florida State and Clemson. two schools that are trying to get out of the Big Ten. Out of the ACC. Those are also two schools that Ohio State, the Big Ten should go after, but I don't think the Big Ten's going to, because I think the Big Ten right now is, with him throwing out idiotic ideas about a 2018 playoff, I think that their priorities are wrong, even though that was originally something that was in-house, where Petitti had a meeting with the leaders of the 18 institutions that make up the Big Ten Conference. And then somebody got the great idea, how about we share this with people outside of this room? Well, they shared it outside, and then those in the Big Ten are wondering, why did this get leaked? Why did we do this? Well, we all know you want to hear what the public thinks before trying to say, oh, this should be a thing, or throw it in the trash. Even though it was just an idea and it's in the early preliminary stages, you wanted to see what the public thought. Duh. That's why a lot of stuff gets leaked. A lot of stuff gets leaked, not because it's actually going to happen, even though sometimes it does. It gets leaked because somebody wants to find what the public thinks about it. I mean, literally, last week, the NCAA informed Michigan that the public would find out the punishment for their sign stealing the next day. Why would you leak that? Because you want some buzz and you want people to know, hey, look out for this. And now the time they said was 1 o'clock. There are some phenomenal people that cover the national landscape of college football, Pete Thamel being one of them. That punishment got released before the 1 o'clock press conference. Why? Because people are good at their jobs. I hope that we can come on here after Ohio State's home and home series are complete with Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, and say, oh yeah, the Big Ten and the SEC have a challenge. Both conferences have a 9-conference slate in the regular season. The SEC found a way to add 2 more schools so that both conferences have 18 schools inside of them, and you can have a home and home series. Would it be Florida State and Clemson? I think it makes a whole lot of sense. You're adding Florida's rival into the conference. Great. You're adding South Carolina's biggest rival to the conference. Great. And so you're adding internal rivals that will already be, I don't know the correct word. It's not in my head right now. But those would be protected rivalry games, protected matchups. That's what it was. Great. I'm here for it. But also, Ohio State needs to play more teams in the South. Absolutely. You know what I would also love? Not so much them playing a SEC school. I want to see a home and home with Ohio State and Miami. 100%. I mean, Ohio State already has a foothold. Not a foothold. Has already made their mark in the South, in the southern portion of the state, and really the southeastern portion of the country down there in Miami-Dade County, because Hartline, LJ, Lachlan, if they want a guy down there, they can probably get him. Now, you're not getting offensive linemen. That's still an issue for Ohio State recruiting, but you're probably getting a lot of those guys. I hope we get a Big Ten SEC challenge, and I hope Tony Petitti doesn't get in the way. So far, there's been some things that he has done that Kevin Warren never did, and people were so upset with Kevin Warren. When Kevin Warren wasn't out here floating out some idiotic ideas for a playoff, or not even the 24-28 team thing. Talking about, oh, let's get these automatic qualifiers, 7 for 2018 playoff format, or what was it, 4 automatic qualifier for the Big Ten and SEC. We never heard Kevin Warren do that. Now, Kevin Warren didn't do some of the things the right way, but no person does everything the correct way. That's a part of life, baby. And this is what we're talking about. Because in life, you're going to make mistakes. And in life, you might say something stupid. You can walk certain things back, not double down on them and make it gospel. Because that don't make no sense. What does make sense is the Big Ten and the SEC having a challenge. They're the 2 best conferences in the sport. They are the ones that you would expect to win the national championship at any given year. Yes, a Big 12 or an ACC school might win it. If any school between those 2 conferences is going to win it, it's probably going to be Clemson. Miami, if they keep trending in the ways that they are, they can win it soon. I don't think this is the year. I'll put my money on Clemson to be the ACC team that is favored to win the national championship. If any of them are favored, it has to be Clemson to be in the conversation. A Big Ten, SEC challenge in football, great. If it goes to basketball, I would like that too. I would love the. I don't think they still have the Big Ten ACC challenge. I think they had the Gavitt games. The Big Ten ACC challenge, I love that. I love good hardwood games against quality opponents. But when it's on the football field, man, it hits a little bit different. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Football because my guy, Spencer McLaughlin, is the right individual to get you ready for week 0 and prepare you for the opening games in the 2025 college football season. You can follow Locked On College Football and Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Friday. We'll see you next time.